When a friend of mine was gearing up for his first regional tour, he called me up at midnight, half asleep, and asked, "Do I really need to drop a few thousand on a line array PA, or can I just rent something cheap and hope it works?" I could hear the hesitation in his voice. He didn't want to waste money on gear that would sit idle in his van, but he also didn't want to end up with a system that left the back rows hanging. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Those early doubts are exactly why I spent a few days digging into how a QSC KC12 BK column line array actually behaves in real venues before I hit record. First off, a line array column like the KC12 BK isn't just a big speaker. It's a stackable module that aims to give you a smooth, even sound field from the front of the room all the way to the back. That's the promise behind the three-way driver configuration QSC advertises. In practice, it means the cabinet splits the audio into low, mid, and high sections, each optimized for its own frequency range. When you stack 2 or 3 of them, the drivers line up in a way that narrows the vertical dispersion while keeping the horizontal spread wide. For a house of worship that seats 800 or a corporate conference hall with a raised stage, that geometry can turn a flat-fronted sound into something that feels like it's coming from the entire room, not just a point source. I saw the KC12BK in action at a local church's spring concert. They set up a single column on a low wall, then added a second one a few feet higher on a truss. The result was a surprisingly even coverage. Even people sitting in the balcony reported hearing the choir's harmonies without any hole in the middle of the room. What made that work wasn't just the drivers themselves, but the way the cabinets locked together with the built-in rigging points. No extra brackets or adapters were needed, which saved the crew about 15 minutes of setup time. For anyone who's tired of juggling separate subs, mains, and hanging hardware, that integrated stacking is a genuine time saver. Now, let's talk about the downside that often gets glossed over in glossy spec sheets. The KC12BK weighs just over 70 pounds per module, and while it's manageable for a 2-person crew, it's not exactly a throw-one-go speaker. You'll still need a decent trolley or a pair of sturdy straps if you plan to move it around frequently. Also, because it's a column design, the low-frequency output is more focused than a traditional box-type sub. In a very large, open-air festival setting, you might find the bass starting to roll off around the 60 Hz mark, which can leave the kick drum feeling thin. If your music leans heavily on sub-bass, think EDM or heavy-handed hip-hop, you'll probably want to pair the KC12BK with a dedicated subwoofer to fill that gap. Who should consider spending on this system? If you're a touring band that plays mid-size venues, roughly 500 to 1,500 seats, a church looking for a permanent install that can be scaled up or down, or a corporate AV team that needs a reliable, repeatable solution for conferences, the KC12BK hits a sweet spot. Its modularity lets you start with a single column for a small meeting room and add more as you grow into larger halls. The QSC brand also brings a reputation for solid engineering, so you're less likely to run into mysterious failures mid-show. In other words, the value you're getting isn't just the hardware. It's the predictability of performance night after night. On the flip side, if you're a solo acoustic performer, a street busker, or someone just starting out with a modest budget, the KC12BK is probably overkill. You'll be paying for coverage and stackability you'll never really need, and you'll end up lugging around extra weight for a benefit you won't see. For a coffee shop gig or a small club that fits a 200-person audience, a conventional powered speaker or a compact PA system will likely deliver the same clarity without the added complexity of column stacking. Another practical point that often sneaks up on buyers is the power requirement. The KC12BK is a passive system, meaning you'll need external amplifiers that can handle the 3-way driver load. QSC's own amplifiers pair nicely, but they're an extra expense if you don't already own a compatible rack. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to factor into the total cost of ownership. In my research, a lot of users who bought the column without planning the amp budget ended up purchasing a separate power package later, which stretched their timeline. In terms of real-world durability, the black finish on the KC12BK hides the occasional scuff from loading docks and stage hands. The cabinet's corners are reinforced with steel, and the internal bracing is designed